the village. Traditionally, each year the wampum keeper would take out each wampum belt and remind the tribe what the symbolism means. The Wyandot chiefs have asked me to describe the belt symbolism to you today as they present it. The 200th commemorative wampum belt was weaved by over 400 Southeast Michigan youth in a purple field, emphasizing the horror and tragedies of losing the villages of Brownstown and Mungwagon after an intense 33-year struggle to retain them. On each end of the belt, fragmented pieces of the Treaty of Greenville wampum belt are incorporated to illustrate the broken treaties and worthless words that were inscribed in it. The two squares represent the two villages and the nearly 1,200 Wyandot that lived in the villages when they were taken from the Wyandot in 1818 by the United States under the leadership of Territorial Governor Lewis Cass. The six-sided star symbolizes the 6 points development and the return of the Wyandot to this site of the Confederated Council Fire at Big Rock or Brownstown 200 years after the removal in 2018. The 6 points represents the traditional Wyandot prayer to the north, south, east, west, heaven, and Mother Earth as a thank you to the great Creator for protecting the Wyandot people and keeping them strong during the 200-year journey since leaving their villages. In the middle of the 6 points is one purple bead representing the heart and soul of the Wyandot as one people and as protected by the great Creator. The 2-row sections running between them shows the open lines of understanding and healing as together we journey to understand and share for the benefit of future generations. Between each symbol on the belt, there are 7 beads representing the 7 generations who came before us, making our journey possible, and the 7 generations to come, reminding us to be good stewards of Mother Earth and to remember the lasting impacts of decisions we make today on the future generations. Chiefs, if you please place that wampum belt on the wampum poles. The next wampum belt will be presented by Park Ranger and Living History Coordinator for the battlefield, Dennis Moore. The 175th commemorative wampum belt was weaved by, again, over 400 different Southeast Michigan youth in a purple field emphasizing the horror and tragedies of the Wyandot losing their villages, this time in Michigan and Ohio, after an intense 58-year struggle to retain them during the period of intense westward expansion by the United States, and just 25 years after having been moved to the reservation. The purple field further reminds us that the Wyandot were the last native people forced to leave Southeast Michigan and Ohio in the wake of U.S. Indian removal efforts, and the uttermost sadness of the Wyandot as they were compelled to leave their ancestral burial grounds, homes, and way of life to an unknown future. The Wyandot were forced to leave by the Avenger of the River Raisin, President William Henry Harrison, in one of his only official acts as president. On each end of the belt, fragmented pieces of the Treaty of Greenville wampum belt are incorporated to illustrate the broken treaty and worthless words that were inscribed in it. This symbol is shared with the 200th commemoration belt as a powerful reminder that the United States broke every treaty entered into with the Wyandot, while the Wyandot have honored the treaties with the U.S. Prior to the Treaty of Greenville, the Wyandot were one nation in the Great Lakes, and after were split into 2 nations, the Michigan and Upper Canada and the Ohio Wyandot, who chose different paths during the War of 1812 to defend their people, lands, and customs. The year 1843 symbolizes the year the Wyandot were herded by the United States off their lands. The 2 squares represent the Wyandot who were driven from their homes in Ohio and Michigan, regardless of which side they fought on during the War of 1812, or the diplomatic and assimilation efforts both demonstrated to retain their ancestral lands they faced the same fate: forced removal. Some fled to Canada to avoid removing west, while others went to the lands promised to them by the United States and Kansas. The thick line in the middle of the belt totals 644 beads, one for each Wyandot removed to Kansas beginning on July 12, 1843, including 25 Wyandot from Michigan and 30 from Canada. The 200 purple beads surrounded by the white beads remember and honor the 200 Wyandot who walked on or perished as a result of the harsh first 2 years of removal and their placement in Kansas. The 444 white beads symbolize those who survived despite the failure of the United States to provide the lands promised and abandoning the Wyandot people in Kansas in the late summer after it was too late to prepare for the coming winter. The turtle signifies the ancient beliefs that the world was created on the back of a turtle as one people, and that while divided by the United States in the aftermath of the War of 1812, today the Wyandot people are again working together as one resilient and strong nation. The council fire in the middle reminds us that the Wyandot were once considered the eldest nation of the Great Lakes, responsible for the sacred honor of being the keepers of the council fire. After removal, after removal to Kansas, the council was again convened by the Wyandot, were reaffirmed as the keepers of the council fire, an alliance that continues to prove inseparable. The council fire also represents a rekindling of the Wyandot language and customs among its citizens in North America, as old and new traditions are celebrated today. The year 2018 reminds us to remember the past but focus on the future, a future that is bright and strong for the Wyandot. Between each symbol on the belt, there are 7 beads representing the 7 generations who came before us, making our journey possible, and the 7 generations to come, reminding us to be good stewards again of Mother Earth and to remember the lasting impacts of our decisions we make each day on the generations of tomorrow. Chief, if you want to please place that belt on the wampum poles. Master wampum maker Rich Hemmel will now present to the Wyandot Nation a remembrance belt that was designed in consultation again with the Honorable Chief Billy Friend. The wampum belt was cleansed by Seneca Faith Keeper Peter Jameson and wrapped in the 1794 treaty cloth. On top of the Wyandot treaty cloth are original beads from the Seneca that have come over from New York that date to the 1640s and 1650s. It's a string of wampum. This belt will travel back to Oklahoma, where it will become part of the Wyandot Nation Cultural Center. The Wyandot Nation commemoration belt represents the past, present, and future of the Wyandot people. The wampum belt, called Ashir in Wyandot, was built by Rich using primarily purple beads to represent the extraordinary obstacles and challenges that have plagued the Wyandot people since first encountering European nations. The beads signify the forced migration, sorrow, and separation that once befell the Wyandot. The 7 white bars on the left, made of the 7 white beads, each represents the strength and resiliency of previous generations that have held the Wyandot Nation together. The purple beads, separating the white beads, signify the great trials and tribulations previous generations had to overcome to ensure the Wyandot Nation will still exist as it does today. The iconic image of the Big Rock on the left side of the belt represents the Wyandot as the oldest nation of the Great Lakes, where their Grand Council fire was kindled at the village of Big Rock, which was later called Brownstown, and it is still considered in Brownstown Township today. Many distinguished leaders of the Great Lakes nations have gathered right here at the Big Rock Council fire to debate and chart a path of survival and prosperity for their nations. These leaders include the Honorable Wyandot Chiefs of Roundhead, Bart Carrier, Tarhay, Split Log, Adam Brown, and Walk in the Water, among others over the generations. The 6-point star in the middle represents and honors the source of the Wyandot people's strength and wisdom, the great creator. Each point represents a cardinal direction of the traditional Wyandot prayer to the east, south, west, north, Mother Earth, and heaven, as a thank you to the great creator for protecting the Wyandot people and keeping them strong during their journey. The 6-point star is made of ancient white shell wampum beads from the 1640s to 1650s. The sacred beads ties the past to the present and carry the truth of the words spoken then and now. The beads stretch in all directions, signifying the great creator connects and holds the generations together while guiding the Wyandot into the future. The authentic beads remind all people that the lands around Brownstown Creek were selected for the sacred burial mounds of the Wyandot ancestors and remained hallowed grounds and will forever be. Grounds that should be protected for all generations. The iconic turtle on the right side of the belt represents that the Wyandot continue to exist and have returned to the Big Rock resilient and strong. Once again, the Wyandot gather on the sacred grounds to remember those who have gone before, to share with those who are present, and to keep the fire burning bright for those yet to come. The turtle is made with white beads and a field of purple to illustrate that regardless of the travesties and overwhelming attacks of the past, the Wyandot remain unwavering. The council fire in the middle of the turtle represents the Wyandot honored position of keepers of the council fire of the multi-nations Great Lakes Confederation. As keepers of the council fire, the Wyandot continue to this day to use their wisdom to meet, negotiate, and move as one people with harmony, diplomacy, strength, and tact. The glow of the council fire is a light of remembrance. The 7 bars on the far right, made of the 7 beads, each represents the Wyandot focus on the future, reminding all people that every decision made by the nation must consider the long-term impacts and benefits to the Wyandot people, and that all efforts must work towards making sure the Wyandot remain a strong and sovereign nation over the next 7 generations and beyond. The purple beads separating the 7 white bars remind the nation that troubles will come, but together as a nation, new troubles will be overcome for the benefit of their offspring, who in 7 generations will look back and will judge the path taken by the current generation. Our chiefs will now cleanse the belts. The Honorable Grand Chief Ted Roll, Second Chief Darcy Tamaro of the Wyandot of Anderdon Nation, along with Second Chief Norm Hildebrand and the Cultural Ambassador Dave Culver of the Wyandot Nation. We want to again thank the over 800 Southeast Michigan youth, staff and volunteers, Rich and Dan, for all of their efforts. It's a tremendous honor to be here. Our two keynote addresses today will be from the Wyandot of Anderdon Nation and the Wyandot Nation, and it's been my privilege over the last nearly 8 years. My wife reminds me, I try to always make it shorter because I still claim to be the new one here. But she reminds me that it is almost close to 8 years that we've become good friends with both the Wyandot Nation and the Wyandot of Anderdon Nation. Our first speaker is going to be Second Chief Norm Hildebrand from the Wyandot Nation. And Norm has been here many times. He has journeyed with us, helped teach us, along with elders from the nation, has welcomed us openly in Oklahoma, and has just been a true friend and help to everything we do at the battlefield. The new International Wildlife Refuge manager is here, Susan White, and they've been instrumental there, and so welcome Susan as well. And so without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to the Honorable